Today we'll be talking about the letters of support that were written for Brian Peck in 2004. If you don't know who Brian Peck is, please go and watch my last video. I must add that in the docuseries Quiet on Set, it was said that they didn't know whether the celebrities who wrote the letters knew about the charges or any of the details about the case. Firstly, I'd like to talk about James Marsden, who you may recognise from films such as 27 Dresses, Enchanted and Sonic and many others. In this letter, he described how he met Brian Peck, and he described him as intelligent and knows the way this business works, and added his intentions are always good. And he also said how much Brian had suffered, and I quote, suffering of 100 men. He also wrote about how he lived at his house for months and even shared hotel rooms with him, and he never felt compromised or uncomfortable around Brian. In my own opinion, I think he was trying to say that because it didn't happen to him, that it didn't happen to Drake Bell. I should also mention that only one person has apologised.
Has anyone called you and genuinely apologized and you feel they are sincere?
That wrote the letters?
Yeah. Or anyone in general? Wow. No one.
No. Wow. No one that wrote the letters. Tom DeSanto, the producer from X-Men, he released a statement, an apology statement, which I really appreciate. And, that was really, I want to say brave, because this is a very, very tough thing for everyone involved. And that's what happens when people like Brian do what they do. It creates, it's a ripple effect. And so that was really cool of him to do. But no, I haven't gotten an apology or sorry. Well, that's my brain. From anybody that had written letters or was involved in supporting him at all.
Wow.
The second person I'd like to talk about is Taran Killam. He was in How I Met Your Mother, Night School, Just Married, and many others. In this letter, he wrote about how he met Brian Peck and how he instantly became friends, which was a common response in meeting Brian. He also wrote how Brian would get friends jobs and get them auditions, which brings me on to the next letter, which was written by Will Friedle and Ryder Strong. In Ryder Strong's letter, he also commented how he developed a strong friendship with Brian and how Brian was intelligent, and also how Brian gave him free coaching for auditions. In Will Friedle's letter, he wrote Brian was honest and an ethical friend, and that he never witnessed any inappropriate behaviour and deserved another chance. 19th of February, they spoke about it on their podcast, Pod Meets World.
This episode is unrehearsed, or really not pre-produced at all outside of this intro, and we are taping it without knowing when it will air. And we have reached out to an expert, family therapist Katie Morton.
And here is some information about Katie Morton. She was actually on Shane Dawson's channel a few years back, and she didn't get quite a good reputation from that.
Not just working on the show and appearing on it with many small roles until it concluded in 2001, but integrating himself into Will and Ryder's personal life, becoming part of their most trusted inner circle, despite being more than 15 years older than both of them, and crossing many workplace boundaries. And then, in August of 2003, he was arrested in Los Angeles, then 43 years old, for lewd acts with a child that occurred in 2001 with an underage student he was coaching. To say this came as a shock to us at the time would have been an understatement. We saw no signs of this behavior and were not victimized ourselves, and were constantly being told by this person, who was our friend, that he was the actual victim. In the end, he was convicted and spent 16 months in prison. There had been reports of him working on sets that involved kid actors after his release, with watchdog groups and media outlets correctly staying vigilant on his actions, but we couldn't confirm anything outside of what we've read online.
Role to be hanging out with 15-year-olds.
That's one of the reasons I'm struggling so much with this, and it's been bothering me for so long, is I wasn't 15. I was like 19. I want to look back and think that I was worldly, and there's no way that I could have been taken advantage of at that age, and there's no way that I could be manipulated like this because I was an adult. I had heard what had happened. I'd known this man for years and years, had no idea that any of this was going on, obviously. And the idea that now at 24 or whatever I was, 24, 25, when it happened and found out about it, that I didn't know, couldn't spot it, that was a failure, my own failure in my mind, where it was like, I don't know. I don't even know how to put half of what I'm feeling into words, to be totally honest with you. I look back and I go, I can't have been this naive. I mean, this man came onto our set, befriended us instantly, super nice guy, to the point where I didn't have a lot of friends. I still don't have a lot of friends. I keep my circle of friends very, very small. But I was working a lot after Boy Meets World, and this guy had so ingratiated himself into my life. I took him to 3 shows after Boy Meets World.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this was the type of thing where the person he presented was this great, funny guy who was really good at his job. And you wanted to hang out with. Again, I didn't hang out with him a lot socially, but we were on 4 different shows together on sets all the time.
I did. I mean, we hung out all the time. Yeah.
You hung out socially, right? Yeah. So that's the thing but that's because I just didn't have much of a social life because I was in my house. But I saw him every day, hung out with him every day, talked to him every day. And so to look back at that and then him telling us what happened, or I'll just say for me, telling me what happened, and then instantly spinning it to where it wasn't his fault. It was clearly the fault of his victim. My initial instinct, because of the years I've been with him, is like, well, yeah, of course, it can't be you. Can't be you.
Right.
You sidle up to the guy who now you look back in as an adult and you go, he's horrible. And my instinct initially was, well, my friend this can't be. So it's got to be the other person's fault. Has to be. The story, of course, makes complete sense the way that he's saying it. And you're damn right. It's that kid's fault. How dare he? And I look back at that now as an adult, and it makes me want to cry.
The next person I want to talk about is Alan Thicke. So if you don't know him, he was from Growing Pains, This Is Us, and many other films and TV series. In the letter, he wrote that Brian had made a gigantic mistake and how Alan would be very careful about writing a character reference relating to children. So if you didn't know, Alan Thicke has a son called Robin Thicke, and you may have heard of him from the Blurred Lines video, which caught headlines a while back, mainly due to it glorifying rape culture. In Emily Ratajkowski's book, My Body, she alleged that Robin Thicke had sexually assaulted her whilst filming on set for the video of Blurred Lines. Alan Thicke has passed away in 2016. The person who wrote a letter was Joanna Kearns, who you may know from Growing Pains, Knocked Up. In her letter, she described him as a good person and how she had no doubt of appropriateness, and it's not in his character to do any unlawful things to another person, and it must have taken an extreme situation or temptation. So basically, she was victim blaming. Last person I want to talk about is Kimmy Robertson. You may know her from Twin Peaks and other Disney movies, and she's been in a lot of stuff. And just prepare yourself for this letter. So she said that Brian Peck must have been pressured or pushed into it, and that Drake Bell, who was known as a John Doe at that point, taking advantage of Brian, which is crazy considering Drake was just a child. These are a few clips and pictures of Kimmy Robertson and a few other celebrities with Brian Peck after he is known as a convicted sex offender.
At an undisclosed secret location with a very special group of people. We're starting over. We can't tell you what's happening. What? Hello? What's going on? What's going on?
And she posted this picture on her Instagram on the 22nd of September 2018. Thank you for watching, and make sure you subscribe and comment and like the video.